Hello everyone, welcome to Under the Wing. I am your host Andrew Wingard, and I am extremely grateful that you are sharing your time with me today. I am excited that I get the opportunity to share with you the experiences and stories from all walks of life. Gather round and let's begin. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Under the Wing. I am your host Andrew Wingard, and we have another special guest with us today, Erik Engartner. How are you doing today, sir?
Andrew, I'm doing amazing. Thank you again for having me on. Great to hear from you.
I'm excited, man. And I talked with you a little bit prior to this show, and we've touched base, time after time, and just kind of getting you ready and figuring out when we could get you on. And so Erik is a member of Where's Winona Now, which is a band. Now, did they start in Youngstown or did they start in Columbus?
Oh yeah, we're from here in Youngstown, Struthers specifically. They I joined the band 4 years into their existence, so as sort of a latecomer to that lineup. But yeah, we're all from the Struthers, Youngstown area.
Okay. Shout out to Struthers, man. Shout out to Bellaria.
Sure,
My guy
yeah.
Frank, Bob Camaro. Shout out to my folks over there in Bellaria. But also the owner operator of the Wickyards. And we're gonna touch on that a little bit later on, man. And so, I think it's pretty impressive what you're doing in the city of Youngstown with music and attractions and the things that you're juggling to really give Youngstown the energy that it deserves, man. So I'm excited to hear a little bit about your journey and where all of this comes from, right? So before we get too deep into the conversation, I want to talk a little bit about Youngstown.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, what was it like growing up in Youngstown?
Yeah, so Youngstown, it's I technically grew up in the Boardman-Canfield area, but I went to high school and most of my undergrad in Youngstown itself. It's a place where you meet someone and you'll soon realize that someone they also know fairly well. Yeah, so it's small, but it's still like in the top, I think, 80 metro areas in the country.
Yeah.
So it's sort of big at the same time too. But growing up around this area, you meet so many kinds of people: rich, poor, farm, city, suburban, everything in between.
Right.
And there's a reason it's such like a swing state in elections and all that. But people are, grateful for the good things that do come to the community. They want to see it thrive again. And yeah, just genuine love for the place. People get excited about the little things.
For sure, man. And I tell, when I first moved to Youngstown, I would always tell the folks, like, it reminded me so much of Saginaw, Michigan. And very, very similar to the characteristics that the city of Youngstown scene. I mean, the scene of Youngstown, but there was something very different with Youngstown. And I think it was just the people, the love for the city of Youngstown, the pride. There are some things that Youngstown has that the city of Saginaw does not. And so, I was appreciative of everything that you just said, of the different backgrounds and the different people and the love within the city. And so I was appreciative of my time there. And so we're going to talk about music, man, but
sure.
I'm a big believer in food and music, and it's hard to have one without the other at times. And so what I want you to talk about, man, because I truly enjoyed the cuisine of the city of Youngstown, man. So there might be someone that's thinking about making a trip down to the city of Youngstown for a weekend. Okay. Talk about some of the Youngstown experiences, man. If you got some suggestions, where does this person need to go?
Okay, so yeah, Youngstown's sort of a hidden gem in the region culinary scene. I'm not just saying that; I truly believe it. And there's definitely some local hot spots. Pizza is a big thing here around town. A couple of my favorites there are Uptown, Wedgwood, and West Side Bowl too. A bit of a combo music venue there too. Some other great places I recommend: MVR. Charlie Staples. I like the Federal a lot too. White House Roof Farm. Some really solid delis and bakeries just around town as well. But like you said, there's a reason when people return to town that maybe moved away. Their trips usually revolve around food here, and yeah, it's because it's so consistent and really diverse in some of the offerings. Yeah,
For sure, man. Shout out to the MBR too, man. Are
sure.
they open back up for lunch yet?
No,
No.
sure.
Oh man, I I missed the trestle tortellini, and it hasn't even been that long.
Spicy bow tie guy myself, but
Okay, yeah, man. That's awesome, man. So thank you for sharing that. And so speaking of the experiences in Youngstown, and I mentioned a little about Wickyards and kind of what you're doing for the city in regards to music, but you also have another project that you've been working on, and I think I saw that you posted something about anxiety surrounding the project, and you have so much working. You're working on this, you're working on that, and I'm referring to the haunted house attraction.
Yeah.
And I apologize that I never stopped by the funeral home. I just have some really weird memories of dealing with the afterlife. I spent some time messing around with the Ouija board, and so that makes me very uneasy. And so I stayed my distance away from that, man. But I want you to talk about, man, what was the inspiration behind this project, the Haunted House project?
Sure. Well, now I'm curious what happened with that Ouija board, but
yeah,
man. Totally fine. You never stopped by. But back to Haunted House, the inspiration behind all of it really stems from how much time I've spent at the venue. I've been operating for over 6 years now. And I think of how I'm always like looking for the next thing, like how can I be doing more? And I look around, I see this, 9,000 square foot, 1906 mansion in the middle of downtown. Like, what's the best use of this place? And people, when I give them tours, they're like, oh, this is obviously haunted. Okay, put two and two together, and the place is actually haunted. I have had paranormal groups there, and they've confirmed that.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, friendly ghosts though, wouldn't harm a thing. But yeah, I had this idea in mind, and last year I decided, hey, this is something I want to do. Took forever to come up with a good storyline for it, and then I finally did about a year ago, and been just working consistently at it ever since. Like, I'm not even a person that's really into like scary movies or like would go to a haunted house attraction if like on a weeknight alone or weekend alone, just for my own leisure. But this is something I wanted to do. For manifesting the storyline, I want to go to like Disney-esque levels of immersion with this. Managing the route, decor, financials, hiring, screenwriting. I've booked a couple bands for the queue. I'm just doing everything with it right now. I still have a little bit left to go with marketing and all that, but this is by far the biggest project I've taken on in my life, and
wow,
I'm excited.
You mentioned storyline, and again, we met at the YSU Foundation, and where we do a lot of fundraising for Youngstown State University, and stories have a huge impact in what we do. And you mentioned storyline and building up this haunted house. What if you can talk to me a little bit about how you say it took you a little while to develop that storyline? Why did it take you so long, and why is it so important to have that storyline for that?
Well, I mean, you have to have some sort of like, it can't be completely random, scaring and all that. Like, why do you just have clowns in the middle of a funeral home? If like, there needs to be context and reason to everything.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, I just thought to myself, what logical story is there? People see the building, they see, we're in town, like what kind of story makes sense? And I believe I developed something to where you kind of get the best of both worlds, where it fits in with the nature of the building and the history of it, while also serving up scares and kind of unique concepts involving cats and a mad scientist that people won't see coming. Yeah.
Did you have to partner or do any research with anybody when you were developing this storyline?
It just came to me pretty naturally. Okay. Yeah.
Awesome.
This is a former funeral home, and two and two together. I like cats a lot.
Okay. All right, man. So let's jump into the meat of this.
For sure.
And, and again, as I mentioned, I'm slightly jealous. I mentioned this off air. I'm always jealous of musicians when I get a chance to talk with them because it's something that I've always had a passion for. But I have never had I don't even know the right word, I don't even want to say backbone, but I haven't had the spirit to actually take up an instrument. I have a harmonica, but I just haven't had the opportunity to really dig deep into it. So what I want you to do, man, is start. Who is Erik Engartner?
Okay. So good question. A little bit about myself. I'm a 27-year-old, kind of wide variety of generic interests. You mentioned music already. We'll get to talking about that, but everything else from fantasy football to visiting every presidential gravesite to gaming, theme parks. I have my undergrad in tourism and event management from YSU, and I have my master's in state regional planning from the university that recently trademarked the word the.
Yep.
Yeah, sure did that.
That's awesome, man. So tell me a little bit about the music background, man. How did you get started?
So I guess I started playing other than hitting random strings on toddler-sized instruments when I was about 13. I had gotten exposed to music outside of whatever my grandma happened to have on the radio and whatever was on Nickelodeon when I got my first MP3 player when I was 12. And that was like really liberating, honestly, just to have like my own library without having to convince my parents or whatever to buy a CD. So I get an iTunes gift card for my birthday or something and just go in.
That's awesome.
But yeah, another big inspiration early on was like Guitar Hero and Rock Band, those games.
Yeah.
Yeah. For like a lot of people that are in like the rock scene that are about my age really like discovered a whole bunch of new and old music through those. And because it takes you from the perspective of a musician. So like even though you're only hitting 5 plastic buttons, like you're still connecting with the music in a way that just casually listening to it you might not get. And that's a big point of growth. And yeah, then from there it was just that got me interested in this stuff. And then it was more of a, okay, how do I find people to make this a real thing? Like, how do I find a band? And there wasn't a lot of people in the school I went to that were into that at the time, but eventually through some athletics I was involved with, met some people, and we made our first band.
That's awesome, man. That is awesome. And so, I read an article not too long ago, and the title read, Teens Find Joy in Music During Pandemic. And so, you touched on that, the video game aspect of Guitar Hero and kind of the impact that it had on you. And so, my music preference has developed over the past 10 to 15 years. I grew up listening to the blues, hip hop, R&B.
Yeah.
And now you can find almost anything on my playlist. Trombone Shorty, Luke Bryan, Luke Combs, Billie Eilish, X Ambassadors, anything. And so I'm curious, as you're a musician, and I know the power of art, but why did music help so many during the pandemic?
Yeah, you have solid music taste right there, I'll tell you that. But yeah, I think the pandemic gave people time to not only discover new hobbies and do activities, or I know someone who finished a book, I wonder who that is. But at the same time, people needed entertainment, and with gatherings limited and that time created, watching new shows or intently listening to new or old music became a bit more of a priority than it was. And yeah, probably provide just some comfort too, just to be able to escape all that was going on.
Yeah.
I actually wrote a whole paper about this not too long, about 2 years ago. And there's just more music being created now than ever, just because of all the technology we have on just your computer or your phone to make something that sounds like professional quality.
Yeah.
For very little money at all. So like floodgates are open to anyone to create, prosper. They could put their own stuff on streaming for millions of people to listen to
right
within days. So there's all this new content. It's overwhelming in a fantastic way. So
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And so you mentioned the idea of music being open to almost anyone, man. And so I read an article that you were highlighted in with you being the owner operator of the Wickyards, and it mentioned, you know, keeping live music alive in the city of Youngstown. And you know, I know what kind of work goes into that. You leave work and you're like, hey, I'm heading over here. I got a band here. You come by and stop by. You guys are performing at what was the Federal Frenzy and all of those things. You know, what kind of pressure comes with something like that? You're pretty much deemed the one of the people keeping live music around in the city of Youngstown. Is there any pressure with something like that?
Definitely. Yeah, a lot of pressure. I consider people I talk to consider us one of the 3 big venues in town, along with Westside Bowl and Cedars.
Yeah.
So, you know, on weekends, like I don't have shows, like that's just creating one less opportunity for an artist to, you know, find themselves, you know, discovered by new fans, or just another place for people to go out, have a good time at. And I and only I really present them that opportunity to have that at that place at that time. So it's a lot balancing, you know, the venue, my own bands, my other full-time job as well. And yeah, it's a lot, but I have the passion for it. And I've always subscribed to be the change you wish to see in the world. And
for sure.
I take that
awesome. That's awesome, man. So I'm curious, you know, as you know, I read that article and, you know, they had thoughts from different musicians in the area. You know, what's been the biggest challenge from your end as an owner operator of the Wickyards? You know, what's been your biggest challenge?
As owner operator, it's, well, attendance is like a big thing, obviously. So like you want to make these lineups that support every touring band and every like nook and cranny of music there is. And sometimes they're just the crowd, for whatever reason, there might be just other things going on that night, or the acts just don't have the following that they deserve to have. But so there's some of that stuff that you just want to see support for everybody thriving.
Right. How do you manage to stay positive, you know, when you're seeing attendance and you're not as happy with the outcome as you would like to see? You know, how do you manage staying that light that you want to be for the music scene?
Yeah, well, it's really just keeping at it, never giving up. Like just because one show doesn't go well, you learn from mistakes. I keep a lot of data to try to alleviate those mistakes from doing them again, whether it's, you know, changing nights up on different genres, or you could get very analytical with a lot of this. And you know, it's just different things to learn from, what kinds of mixed genre shows work, what doesn't. It's all experience.
So they're in my hopes is, and you know, I talked to you about the creation of this podcast is to hopefully connect us, because we're all so much very different, but we all sometimes we go through the same thing, man. We go through the same journey, and we battle the you know, the same story. So there may be someone that's in your shoes that's starting out and they're like, man, I just don't know. You know, what advice would you give that individual that's on that brink of like, I don't think I can go no farther. Like I'm done.
Well, yeah, for just those people in any walk of life, just you have to, like I said, learn from mistakes, take inventory of what you've been doing, how can it be improved, and for the lack of a cringy phrase, never stop, never stopping. But it's just be smart with your decision making as you're grow and experience, and things will come if you keep at it with the effort.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
But let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk where's Winona now. And
For sure.
so, I was listening to the album
Nice.
maybe a week or so back, and Pixies is probably my favorite song on the Where's Winona Now album in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you talk about a band, you have different people that you're collaborating with. What I would like for you to talk about now, as we get ready to kind of wrap up here in a little bit, is how important is collaboration, even just as in the band or even as the owner operator. How important is collabing with the community and musicians?
Yeah. Well, first, Pixies is among my favorites for sure. I didn't record that album, but yeah, we play it live almost every time. It's great.
Nice.
But yeah, some people, you really have to feel them out in collaborating as a musician. You have to, ask yourself, who are their influences, like who they are as people, who are they? What can you learn from them? What level are they with their playing? And how do they respond to criticism too? Because sometimes you have to force it to make it work, and other times you just have like a musical soulmate situation where you can predict their next 5 moves. Yeah. I've definitely been on sides of both. Similar, and you get that sort of chemistry in sports as well. But yeah, and same goes for a lot of my Wickyard shows too. Like we embrace the DIY aspects of our business, and like I want them to help me out when maybe a mic situation is going odd, or I'll ask someone I know to watch the door for a little bit if I need to use the bathroom, or it's trying to create team situations whenever you can, fully embrace and trust people.
Yeah. So you mentioned something there, and if you can expand on, you mentioned the DIY process. Well, what do you mean by that in regards to the owner operator situation, or in reference, what were you referencing to that DIY?
Yeah. So the Wickyards, we market ourselves as a DIY concert venue. Essentially is what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
So you as somebody walking in there for the first time is able to kind of break down every individual part of it. There's no secrets as to what's going on. It's, music. You pay a small fee at the door. Money mostly goes back to bands or whoever's performing. And yes.
Yeah.
Sound is all done right there in front of you. It's very community atmosphere.
Gotcha. Well, I talked a little bit about this from the owner operator perspective, and I'm curious to hear from the musician perspective in the band. Tell me about a time when a show didn't go as well as you guys wanted it to go, and what did you learn from that experience?
So I'd say we played a show a few months ago. It's at the rec center at Youngstown State. It was a great show all around, but there were just a couple small things that threw hiccups in the day, as like there's supposed to be a battle of the bands that day.
Yeah,
there's a COVID situation with the other band, so it was nice we won the battle of the bands by default.
Right.
At the same time, because of that, we had to play double sets, and we were, kind of worn out after the first one. We didn't prepare enough material, and there weren't a lot of people watching us to begin with. And this was like our first show in several months.
Yeah,
we were a little upset about that. We had these expectations; they weren't met, and that's okay. I mean, any chance to perform is great,
right?
But yeah, I guess just a couple things we learned from it is to, just prepare for anything. Make sure people's schedules are good, because, just getting people. It was on a Wednesday at 5:00, and that was another part. it got messy work schedule wise.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, as we wrap up the show, I wrap up the podcast the same way with everyone. And so what I would like you to do at this time is I'm a huge believer in giving your roses to someone that has meant the most to you, whether it's a mentor, a friend, a sibling, whoever it may be, someone that has been there for you, that's still alive, if possible, that has, had a huge positive, influential impact on your life.
Sure. I do have two, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have to start with my mom. I can't not thank her. Just believing me every step of the way through all my life's challenges, chances, risks, anything I wanted to take. She was on board most of it, helped me out. Can't thank her enough.
Nice.
The other person I wanted to thank more from the music side is my friend Albert Chismar. He was the singer of that first band I was in and was in several others with him after that. And he's still one of my best friends, despite him living mostly out west the past few years. Okay. I've never felt a more musical chemistry of anyone. He was the first person. He was the person I really needed to meet in order to start that first band. He introduced me to so many people. Like connecting with your local scene, I guess, and the local musician community is, I'd say, the number one thing in starting your own musical journey, if you want to do that.
Can you repeat that again repeat that statement again for me?
I'd say the top thing in order to start your musical journey, like if you're just decide, hey, I want to pick up an instrument or I want to start singing or whatever, number one thing is start going to shows, introducing yourself within the local musician community. Because just making connections is really tough, especially if you're in a new city, you don't know anybody, but just networking at those things, it just gives you so many opportunities.
That's good.
Make so many friends.
That's good. I think that's just that alone is such a universal. I think that's universal, and I think it's powerful for you guys, for musicians, but that professional that moved over to Oregon for a job, I think that's powerful information for them to know. So that's why I asked you to repeat this. I appreciate you elaborating on that, because that's powerful, man. Mm-hmm. All right, man. So what I want you to do now is take some time. We got a couple minutes here. How can people learn more about Wickyards? What Erik's doing? Where can I find information about the band? Go ahead.
So for Where's Winona Now, we're on Instagram and Facebook. Follow us on there, or you can listen to us on any streaming service you can really think of. The Wickyards, you did allude to a couple of the news articles about us. You can search for those on easy Google search. And we're also on Instagram and Facebook if you want to stay updated on our events and all our goings on. And if you want to follow my personal journey, follow me on Instagram at Erik Engartner. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, again, I appreciate you taking time to catch up and connect with me today and sharing with me a little bit about your music journey. And, I wish you nothing but the best, man. And I hope that you can continue to keep the music scene thriving there in Youngstown.
Yeah, trying to, Andrew. Yeah, thanks for having me. Had a great time, and all the best.
Thank you so much for listening to Under the Wing. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. If you enjoyed today's show and you would like to support the podcast, tell a friend or two, share on social media, or leave a rating and review. You can follow me on Instagram at Under the Wing with Andrew. Again, thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.